Jack in this class?
Yeah, there's 2 Jacks in this class.
Okay, I'll go message them right now.
Okay. Can you sketch at the same time, or are you just gonna go text them on your phone?
I gotta go text them. I can't sketch at the same time while I'm texting them.
Okay. Just to give you a heads up, we're probably gonna start with a circle. Who's Tennessee again? Who is that? Sorry, I can't remember.
I'm Ace Noah.
Hey, what's up? It's good to see you, Noah. I just couldn't remember the name. I feel like we should just start. Let's just fire this thing up. It's not going to be that hard. We're actually going to draw a couple of them. Coulter just got in here, so that's good. If you have something to blend with, you can blend with your finger. But even if you take like a little corner, even if you take like a little corner of the paper and just fold, like just like a little scrap sheet and just fold it a bunch of times, it winds up getting like this little corner, and then you can actually like blend with it. And it's better to blend with a piece of paper, just because it's like the paper on paper is better. Okay, Jack made it. Coulter made it. There we go. Now we've got like a class. It's like a full-blown class. All right. Let me throw this in a grid view so I can see anybody out there. Charlie, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, so we're gonna draw some animals today. We're gonna draw like a super, like one for a sketch from nature. We're gonna draw a couple elephants, and we're gonna start off with this cherry. So I will keep an eye on the I'll keep an eye on the, you know, whatever it's called, the waiting room, to make sure no one's in exile. Stacy will not be joining us today. I guess there's a little cross against Jack, I had to mute you because I think you have 2 devices.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
No, you're fine, dude. How's it going? Long time no see. So I was just saying that if you have a blending stump, that'll be helpful. Most of this object is actually, believe it or not, a light object up against a dark ground. The bottom is dark, but the top and the light, the whole top half of it is light against a dark background. So that's like, it's an interesting thing to, you know, to contemplate as we handle shading the background. So this is a drawing, yes, but it's actually, we're going to approach it as a drawing, but we're going to approach it, this is in fact a painting. So we're going to approach it as we would make a drawing in preparation for painting. And with painting, you have to cover the entire canvas. So the whole thing has to get coverage. Now, we don't have to shade our entire sheet of paper, but you know, we do need to get at least a background for every part of the cherry. And it'll actually be kind of like, it's kind of a simple drawing, but it's more of a complex shading exercise. So this week, there will, you know, this is just more shading. And so that's why I'm like kind of pushing having like the tortillon, like something to blend with. It'll just make blending the lines into the background and the line at the bottom of the cherry a lot easier. Kristen, do you need to say anything before we get started? I don't know. All right, so everyone's out of the waiting room. Let's do this thing. All right, so I'm going to start first with a very, very light circle, like incredibly light circle. And I'm just going to block that in because you can tell that the cherry is not, in fact, a circle. It's more of like, kind of like a heart shape. So you have this like little heart moment up here. And because it's a shading exercise, we've got to figure out all the things that require shading. So like there's not many objects in the picture. So there's basically the cherry, the stem. Maybe we'll just do the stem. It's got this beautiful arc. Cherry stems get wide at the base, then they get narrow, and then they get thick again as they get up towards where it was connected to like the branch. And there's a little bit of like a tear from the top of that branch. Now, in the physical world, this is kind of where the object ends. You can make a case that the tabletop is an object. So we can put that in there. This line that I just put in there is basically where the light that is hitting the table disappears into the background. Now, in the virtual world, or kind of the immaterial world, you've got the shadow on the ground, and that's basically a the thinnest of ovals. In fact, you could even argue that the artist made it a rectangle, just probably to be a little savvy. And then we have the reflection. So you can't pick up the reflection, but you can accumulate knowledge based on what you know of the cherry. So you can draw, let me move this up a little bit. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so that's where it cuts off. I made my cherry bigger, which is fine. I'll zoom in later. But what I was gonna say is that you can draw the reflection based on what your cherry looks like. So you don't have, you can copy the shadow, but I think you're actually going to want to copy your own cherry, like the reflection of the cherry that you made up above. And you get a little bit of the stem. I'm going to close off my picture right here. Cool. My original circle, I used construction lines for that. It was wonderful. Seems like there's 2 light sources, maybe 1 light source that's reflecting twice. I don't know. But it's kind of like that classic, you know, highlight, like you would put on a bubble, or on a, yeah, basically like a bubble, or even like some kind of shiny fruit, like a grape or something. All right, so let's try this. We need, in order to get the table to stand out, we need to shade the area like next to the table, because we have white paper, so we don't have the luxury of adding light marks like they could with the oil. So let's just try that. Let's just sketch. Ooh, that's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to sketch the bottom of the cherry and see how that underside of the cherry almost disappears into the shadow on the table. Looks like I made my original shape a little bit too big. I'm thinning that out. And then where I used my line, like it's nice because the cherry is dark. So like if there's a line, I can blend that line into the bottom of the cherry. The cherry is shiny, and I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little like mirrored reflection off of the tabletop, which is amazing. So I had the 2 highlights, which are from the light source directly. And then we have this like third light source, which is actually the light bouncing off the ground into the, you know, reflecting off the table up into the bottom of the cherry. That's actually very interesting. All right. And then the bottom of the cherry is reflected in the table and is also dark. You can see a little bit of the reflection. So that's awesome. So the light comes from above, hits the table, bounces into the underside of the cherry, and then is reflected in the bottom of the back into the table. Now it's a lot fainter. It's much more faint, but it's still there. So I'm really just kind of pointing out some of the anatomy. You can actually see some of the highlights reflected in the bottom of the cherry as well. The top highlights, put those in there. And then this is the point where you would want to blend, because my cherry is like, what? See how like like energized and erratic and like out of control my reflection is, as soon as I come in with my tortillon, which is the blending stump, and I start to smooth out those graphite lines, I mean, this is going to be the smoothest. And honestly, I start blending on places that are less important. I kind of want to get good at my blending in an area that isn't the most important. The most important is, in fact, the cherry. So there will be blending that happens in the cherry, but I'm going to practice down here in the reflection. That's cool. My background for the cherry, the reflection at least, is kind of gray. So I can lay that in too. So it's really about the cherries, reflection, and then the background. And that's going to be the same when we do the actual cherry. So the reflection and the cherry kind of have the same makeup. I want to go dark, but I don't want to go darker than the cherry. The cherry is, in fact, the darkest, is darker than the background. At least in the bottom. We'll see what happens at the top. You see how I can draw a dark line all the way around the cherry that's at the bottom, the reflection of it? I was not expecting that, to be honest with you. All right, so I'm leaving raw paper at the most intense point of the light on the table. It's kind of where all the drama is created, area of highest contrast. Okay, so let's, oh, there's the other jack. Let's attempt to sketch the this cherry. When I say sketch it, I mean shade it. So we know that the bottom is going to be nice and dark. And then as we come up the side, you get this weird, this strange effect where the cherry becomes light up against the dark of the background. So this left side of the cherry is light, the background is dark. It happens again, even on this side. The cherry is light and the background is dark. So you have to have like a little bit of faith in this. And the line that we used for the edge of the cherry, I'm actually going to shade the background so that now I have a light cherry up against a dark background. And I tell you, I will have to probably, I mean, I'm obviously going to have to add some pigment to the cherry, but I want to establish my background because I know that the background is darker than the cherry. Same with the stem. Wow. Sometimes if you want something to look lighter, you actually have to shade, you have to add darkness to the picture. So I'm doing this to the right side as well. I know that my background is darker than the cherry itself. And I would say the same thing with the stem, the back of the stem. You know, when you make landscape paintings, sometimes they say you should start with the sky and then the furthest distant trees, and then you kind of march forward. There's a lot to be said about that, working on the background and coming forward. And in this case, because the background is darker than the subject, you know, putting in the background, at least the edges of the background first, makes sense. And the background is kind of misty. It's kind of, you know, it's nondescript. There's nothing back there. It's kind of atmospheric. And you could, I mean, you could kind of make the picture as big or as small as you wanted. Meaning you could have like a small cherry in a large space, or you could like crop it down and, you know, have the cherry take up most of the picture. So this is where, yeah, this is amazing actually. I'm like chomping on the bit like a horse trying to get into the cherry itself. I'm I'm trying to stay disciplined, and I want to get at least some background going 360 degrees. So not only 360 degrees around the cherry, but also around the stem. So, and I hadn't anticipated that. I did not sketch this before we started, by the way. Sometimes I'm very familiar with the drawings, with the projects. This one is not by any particularly famous artist. I just thought that it was a nice painting, and I'm trying to push this. I'm trying to push this this idea that drawing is preparation for painting. And yeah, question.
Actually, it's a comment. Like, yeah, if it's not done by a famous artist, you probably never drew it before, even though it's better than a drawing, because it's like these are two similar things. It's like art. If you've heard of this one artist once, and then you hear of another artist, like, meh, he's probably not as good as this one just because he's more popular. Like, someone might pay $1 billion for a line drawn by Picasso, whether for a cherry drawn by Trevor Twist.
Correct.
So yeah, and also Picasso was around longer, and usually most art is recognized when someone dies, because that's when people sort of go through the art.
Ooh.
So technically,
That does happen. That has happened before. Most artists, though, historically speaking, most artists that are recognized that you know about today, and even a lot that you don't know about, were actually successful in their careers. One of the ideas
because
where
no one knew about.
the kind of idea, the one artist that was kind of like that fits what you're talking about is Van Gogh. Like Van Gogh, I don't think he sold one painting. Maybe he just sold one in his lifetime. But the problem was he just died too early. I mean, he didn't even make it to 40. I think he died at 37, 39. And had he lived, another 20, 30 years, had he lived 4 more years, he would have been recognized and seen as being, very popular. He would have been very popular. He would have been celebrated. It wasn't because he died. It was just like his timing was kind of bad. But Renoir and Degas and all the other, and Toulouse-Lautrec, all those other artists, like at that period, they were pretty well known, for their art, and they made a good living. They supported a family. But yeah, we can go over some auction records. There's actually a bunch of Picasso prints at auction at Christie's, and I don't collect prints, but I did notice that the sale was happening, and I didn't see kind of what Picassos were drawing, in terms of price, but we can look at that someday. The art market is a really fascinating thing. Okay, so I'm basically imagining that this cherry is basically like a reflective glass, like a mirrored ball almost. Like it's almost like just a shiny, solid ball. And I'm picking up like this little shape of the table over here. I'm seeing this like rounded. It feels like it's like a light bulb. I think this is lit. Obviously, it's obviously lit from inside, but it looks like it's kind of like studio lamps. So I'm looking around the cherry, and the darkest part's at the bottom, and then it moves up into like a dark gray, and then it moves up into a some lighter edges. Anyway, I'm just trying to I'm going to use my tortillon or my blending stump or my folded piece of paper. Maybe I'll just this is the piece of paper that I had, just like a thin slice, and you can just fold it. I'm not kidding. You just fold it, and it functions like it blends almost just as well. It blends just as well as the other one. It even has kind of some sharper edges to it. So just because you don't have a tortillon, you can always blend no matter where you are. All right, so I'm going to keep adding some more pigment and going soft. If you're not blending, you can do nice, sometimes you can even blend with your pencil, which is kind of an interesting idea. You never really work the pigment into the into the fibers of the paper that way, because you're kind of always, riding the tops of the fibers of the paper. You can really work them in when you have your blending stump. And then you can add some crisp edges. Where you see crisp edges, you can even pull out some light edges. You can pull out some light with your eraser, and then you can even darken your edges of the background. So working with pencils, you're almost always applying, in your mind, you're almost always applying dark, but you can use your eraser and add light to your picture. So it's a removing process, but you're still adding light. And you want to think about it that way because, when ultimately you get into oil painting, you will be adding white paint. And, in these light areas, it's actually the chunkiest paint, the thickest brushstrokes are reserved for the light areas. Like icing on a cake, the finishing touch.
Yeah, this might be hard to believe, but the harder you push with the marker, the lighter it is.
Really?
The harder you push with certain things, the harder you push with paint, the lighter it is. And if you use those thick markers, same.
Yeah, there are like little systems like that like little universal truths that exist within different media.
Yeah, because if you go light, you're actually putting more paint on it. Because instead of rubbing it around, you're just splotching it. So you want lighter, you just
I don't know if you guys were able to achieve this, but my cherry is like sitting on the tabletop, whereas his is kind of angled to the side. And I wish that I would have gotten that. I can't believe it took me this long to even notice that. I have to remove some of this from the bottom. Make it kind of feel like it's tilted. Anyway, this is just a warm up. It's a blending warm up. Just trying to see what's happening. Did anybody finish? Does anybody want to show me what they got?
I finished mine and now I'm working on something else. I'm working on my screensaver for when I stop.
Can I kind of see your cherry?
Yeah, the background isn't completely finished, but I'm on a huge piece of paper. So
Yeah, that's okay. I kind of wish that I had made mine smaller too, because of how, it takes so much time to do the shading. You almost got to work that into how you go. Let's see it.
Yeah.
Hold it up. I don't know.
Did you say something?
Yeah, were you gonna hold it up? Can I see it?
It isn't completely finished.
I just want to get a glance. Coulter, how are you doing? You got yours?
So here is my work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm still working through mine right now.
No worries, man.
I haven't gotten very far on it.
No worries. Any Charlie, you got yours? Any of the jacks or Ace?
I've actually finished I didn't finish the reflection part, but I've finished the cherry part kind of. All right.
Cool. Nice. Yeah.
I did the eraser technique.
It's great. I guess I should probably work mine out. I just didn't want to do this all day. I wanted to draw these elephants. One from an actual drawing from a master painter named Gustave Moreau, and he has his own museum in Paris, and really important artist, but he had this like really amazing sketch of an elephant. He studied what he called pachyderms in his journal, and then I wanted to draw an actual elephant. So maybe we'll just do a couple elephant heads. Does that sound like a plan? This will be like a 2-minute warning for those of you that are still going. Ooh, that feels better. So this is what you, this is why if your drawing is on point, if your drawing is good, these kind of corrections that I'm doing right now are, less necessary. But I started really loose, and I started with not as precise of a drawing, and I kind of went into the shading. And that's a it's a perfectly legitimate way of starting a drawing and even working on a painting. So I mean, I don't feel bad about these corrections that I can make. Just want to try and get the tilt. Adjust the shadow. Ooh, yeah. It's starting to happen. And when artists are like, communicating ideas about, the sketches to each other, there's always this idea of figure, which is in this case the cherry, and then the ground, which is the background. It could be like, a hand up against a torso. It could be like, one, leg of the tripod up against another leg of the tripod. It's just the object that's in front and the object behind. So it's the figures in the front and the ground is in the background. And so you just kind of like analyze every silhouette, and you ask yourself, which is lighter, which is darker. So the cherry is lighter against the background here, but then the cherry is darker up against the tabletop, which is in the light. The shadow is dark up against the light at the table, and then so is the reflection. The reflection of the cherry is darker up against the light of the illuminated tabletop. Now, if you compare the lights and the darks of the shadows, the lights and the darks in the cherry versus the reflection, it's not even close. The cherry is way, way, way brighter, to the point where, I could even blend this cherry down. All those highlights, I can blend them down, and it almost feels exactly like the table. And then it kind of puts the reflection in its place, meaning it's less important, but it describes the tabletop, but it makes the cherry more prominent. The actual cherry, not the reflection of the cherry. Cool. I don't know what happened to my tortillon. Oh, I traded it out for that folded piece of paper. That was a fail. All right, in the next minute or so, there's a thing called when you punch your lights and punch your darks. Now, you can't make your lights any lighter, so you can't punch your lights. But if you had paint, you would be able to do that. Here, we're only going to emphasize the dark notes. So you can kind of come back in, and I'm looking at the middle here, and then at the very bottom, and I'm checking out how dark I can actually get in the middle and the lower section, the very bottom, and even some of the dark notes in the reflection of the cherry. Now, to make it more contrasty, I could, you could really darken the background too, but that's going to take a lot of time. And this is where you get the sense that graphite really only becomes a dark gray. Charcoal, lithography crayons, they get really, really, really dark in terms of drawing. Ink can go very, very, very dark. Graphite It's just a dark gray. So I will never really be able to make it look like the original, because the original's done in oil paint, and oil paint can go very, very, very dark too. All right, well, that took a little longer than I was expecting. All right, let's wrap this thing up. I would, if you guys wanted to finish this, I would put this inside of a rectangle. And then all you have to do is shade to the outside of the rectangle. Just hope that it, the cherry and the reflection sit nicely inside of there. And it kind of does. Cool. Again, I thought this was going to be a nice quick shading warm up, and it got away from me. But with with the blending and the shading, it's just something that you got to learn to do and learn to take pleasure in. I mean, it's fun. Your shading is fun, and you got to, in order to put the right shade in the right place, you kind of have to know what the light is doing, and then how the object is reacting to the light. All right, cool. Nice. Coulter, what you got?
Hi.
Okay.
Sorry. I've been going through mine over and over again because I keep getting this shape of it like either really big or really small.
Uh-huh.
But I've been starting over, but I finally think I'm gonna keep working on it. But I got this
A little
to
higher.
where
Oh, nice. You got the outside shape.
yes, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
But then when I look at it, it kind of looks like two eyes and a smiley face.
Yeah, that's what mine kind of looks like too. Yeah, I could just turn it into that. There's one eye.
Yeah.
And my guy's like smirking a little bit. Or he's like, his lips are overlapped or something like that. Interesting. All right, cool. Let's you guys want to try this elephant? I'll give you a hint on the elephant. It's going to be a little blocky. But goodness gracious, sorry. One of the things that are interesting about this drawing is that he's got tone, and he's got lines, and he's got like a lot of pencil lines. And let me see if I can zoom in even further. It's about as far as I can zoom in, unfortunately. But I think we should go. I think we should go from head to toe. So just to give you just a plan, we're gonna start with the two spherical bumps on the cranium of of our elephant, and then we're gonna go into like what I would call the top of his head. So this is the round part is the back of his head, and then we kind of march forward to what I'm gonna call the bangs. So then the bangs are this kind of like this row. It's almost like a headband. So we go to the round part of the head, then we go to the top of the head to the bangs. Then the next phase is going to be this forehead. And the forehead is delightful and wonderful, and actually very familiar, because like humans kind of have broad, flat foreheads. And then our foreheads, are the same width as our like eyebrows. So if you can see that the side of this forehead transitions right into the eyebrow, side of this forehead transitions right into the eyebrow. So we got eyes, yes, are wide set. They're not like humans in that way, but he's got also a huge forehead linking that up. And then we're going to go from the eyes. We'll place the, eyebrows and then the eyes. And then we'll hit the cheekbones. And then, believe it or not, this is the mouth. This is like the start of the mouth here. It's like some weird wrinkles. And then their tusks are essentially,
Believe it.
what's that?
I believe it.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think of the mouths as being like way down under here, but like their mouths are almost like vertical. So like the corner of the mouth, like the smile, I think is like right here. It's kind of like if like a dog was like putting their chin like all the way down, their mouth would go up like this, and then they lift their head up and their mouth is like straight back. And then honestly, then after that, once we get through those parts, everything else is just fun because it's basically like a tree trunk. It's doing the tusk. So we've got like a trap, we got like a cone for the wide part. Then we got like a snake-like cylinder, and it's twisting and turning up. And it's just basically a cylinder or like cones all the way back down until you get to the end of the trunk. And then that's like so elephant. It's like the areas where the areas that we don't really think about like elephants, like linking them up, is from the, basically from the top of the head down to the eyes. And it'll, it's going to happen. It's going to happen nicely. So let's, the one thing you also have to know, which is good for us, is that you see all of the front, basically the front of the face. And then because it's a block, because all of, most mammals have like relatively blocky heads, you have the front plane and then we have the side plane. And, he's turned in such a way where you don't have to worry about the left side. It's all silhouette. So it's like the side of the head here with a little triangle for the ear, the forehead into the eyebrow, then like the cheekbone into the nose. And then on the right side, you get to see all of it. You get to see all the action. So you see like the curvy part of the head, then the all of this ear, which is like delightful. Then we do the cheekbone goes from obviously the eye, beneath the eye back to the ear. And then we have the jawbone that's underneath here, which is just an L shape. So we get to see a lot of what's going on the side of the head. And, that's going to help us, especially when we sketch the next one. Oh no, where is it?
So many grapes.
So many. And then we got this little guy. So I'm excited to do like the round part of the head, come down. Well, but it's a baby elephant. So everything's going to be, it's all the same stuff is going to be there. It's just going to be a little different.
An African elephant can weigh like 80,000 pounds.
80,000?
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
Maybe 8,000.
8,000 pounds.
Yeah.
They weigh like over 13,000 pounds.
13,000?
Yeah, over 13,000.
Okay, 13,000 I can believe. 13,000. 13,000.
So it's like
I'll double check that,
26,000, but then my teacher said something I don't remember. And she said it, but she said it was like something, she said it was like really big.
Yeah,
It weighs 20 tons.
20 tons. I don't know if it's 20 tons, man.
I think so.
That's like 10 cars. Okay.
Oh yeah, it weighs 13,000 pounds. I'm probably thinking of something else.
No. I mean, I know what you mean though. And then it's just they're very big, and you just have to figure out what your association was, whether it was tons or pounds and which number. Anyway, let's draw this elephant. It's gonna be fun. So I would recommend going close to the top of your paper on this one, just so you have, and I would probably make your paper go vertically. And we'll do the two little orbs for the top. It's like the right side of the skull and then the left side of the skull. And what I love about these two little bumps is that from the very beginning, they help you find the middle. And it's going to be important to find the middle because we have to know the middle between the eyes. We have to find that little bump that's the middle of the forehead. And then we're going to have to like build, the trunk coming down. All right, so we got these orbs, and then what I'm gonna call the top of the head. And it's not very just descript. It's basically like tight skin across the skull. So it's not very descriptive until it starts to turn just like our heads. It's mostly hair, and then our hairline ends and it becomes our forehead. So, and I'm not exactly sure what he was describing here, but I have a feeling it was in fact a hairline. And I'm actually going to make it look more like hair, just for my own sense of being. Cool, getting there. Now for the big square, which is going to lead us to the eyes. So this is the big rectangle. Could be a square, could be a rectangle. This is the big shape, which is going to help us get the position of the eyes. So we have the eyebrow ridge on the left side, and then we have the eyebrow ridge on the right side. And that right side is then going to spiral into the eye. And you want to make the eye, just for our purposes, an almond, but it's got to be an angled almond. So let me just sketch it up here. So if your almond that you get in your what is it, like Honey Bunches of Oats? I like Honey Bunches of Oats. They have almond, and you can get them with almonds. This is a sideways almond. We need it a steep angled almond. And that's going to give us the tear duct, the circle inside of that, which inside the almond is the eye. So I'm just getting that almond shape to get the position of the eye, which I'm really happy about because it did its magic. And I don't know what this little dimple is right here. I don't know if it's supposed to be part of the brow ridge. I don't really see it on the left side. It could be a mistake.
No, it's the brow ridge.
Okay, good. So there's a brow ridge, and then maybe we put a little brow ridge here. We don't see the eyes on the other side, so I'm going to do everybody a favor, and I'm going to give him eyelashes so that we can see that there are, in fact, eyelashes on the other side. It's just the head is turned to a position where we can't actually see the eye, but there's an indication of the eye. Might make it look like a girl, but whatever. When you have eyelashes, heavy eyelashes, it tends to feminize your pictures. So if you're looking to make a subject look more feminine, do that. Give it eyelashes. And this is looking really good. And the reason I say it looks good is because we're kind of out of the woods. Some of the hardest parts, I think, in my opinion, are kind of like over. All right, so if you can imagine a human skull. So let me just humor me for 1 second. So we got the brow, we got the the eye socket, we got the cranium, brow ridge, we've got the nasal cavity, and then in humans you have this aggressive cheekbone, and then it cuts in, and that's where you get your row of teeth. And then you get the jawbone here, jawbone there, and then you get this L, the L of the jawbone that angles up on either side. Do you see what I'm saying? So I may have made this distance between the nose and the mouth a little bit too big, but maybe not. What the point that I'm trying to describe is that you've got the eye sockets, and then you get this cheekbone that cuts under. And a lot of times you wear, like, people that are trying to look thinner will put makeup right here to make that cheekbone look like it's even sunken harder. Now look over at our and that cheekbone leads into the mouth. Now we have all this fleshiness on the side, like the cheek, that hides the relationship between the cheekbone and the jaw. But with this guy, you've got this cheekbone that's coming here, and it leads down into the mouth. There's this, and the reason it's sticking out, it's doing that, is because there's this huge tusk that's coming out, and it's pulling the skin back. So let me just go back to my thing. We're going to go from the underneath the nose, underneath the eye, to get this cheekbone. And then that cheekbone is going to curl down into the beginnings of what is the tusk. And the beginnings of the corner of the mouth. Oh, Charlie got kicked out. Sorry, bro. He's back. Sorry, were you in the waiting room for that long, Charlie?
Yeah.
Sorry. Did you get to see the start of this at all? Sorry about that, man. Okay, so we go, I did that cheekbone, which, you know, cuts under. And then that's going to lead us into this kind of the part of the skin that covers up the tusk. And then we're going to get from basically the top of that to, you know, the top of the jaw, the cheekbone, to the start of the tusk. This is going to be our first, what I'm calling a cone. And I'm calling it a cone because it is. It's wider at the top, narrow at the bottom, and it's basically a cylinder or a half cylinder. This little form that I just drew at that cheekbone, it does present itself on the left side. It's just way less dramatic, but you still come from that eye down into, and even though the trunk comes out, you do see a little bit of the bottom of the tusk. You can actually see that there. Man, I have to zoom out. I get so excited when I'm like into my drawing. And I make everything larger. But that's better. So thank God I'm using my phone and I can zoom in. All right, so this is the first cone. And now we're gonna have to build basically a series of curving cones. And I'll show you what I mean. So it's going to curve it's going to swivel down to the right, and it's going to swivel down to the left, and it's going to swivel down to the right, and it's going to curl under itself. So you see, it's like the tusk, the trunk is basically doing a dance. And this trunk was drawn from a moving elephant. So the artist didn't get to keep it like look at a photograph. Like this was way before photographs. And so you can imagine that like this may not be directly observed, but it's made to show what the trunk does and like how it in fact does move. So let's give this a go. So we're gonna curve down to the right, and then we're gonna S curve to the left. Oh, and then my last point, not my last point, but the most important thing is the reason it's a cone is because it's wider at the top and it's narrower. So each one of these pieces starts wide and gets narrower until the very, very end where you see the nostril holes. Oh man, I just realized something. I was thinking that like we have like there's two noses. Anyway, so you have two nasal passages, and I'm wondering if the trunk is actually like two separate forms that are kind of working in conjunction. You know, like somebody pretends to have someone pretends to have a trunk and puts their arms together like that. And like the way you would actually move your two arms in unison might actually be how the trunk like really functions. Like two separate entities fused and like working in conjunction with one another. That's a really interesting idea. I'm gonna have to like look at how it's made. But that's where our noses are. Our noses, we have two nostrils. They're fused in the middle. They look like it's one thing, but it's really two things. We're bilaterally symmetrical. So we have two arms, two eyes, and kind of two noses. If one nose gets plugged up because you have allergies, the other one works fine. Okay, sorry. Food for thought. So we started with the original cone. That's the first one, number one. Then we're going to swing down to the right, starting wide, getting narrower. That's number two. We're going to swing down to the left. We'll call that number three. Then this next one is actually kind of interesting because it almost gives you a vertical. I like that because when you have everything that's conical, look at this one. Look at right here. This is like a block. So everything else was curvy up here. And then he just introduces like a block just almost to give like that variation, which, I think is helpful. Okay, so let me zoom back out. I'm just trying to find these components to the trunk. Original cone swoops to the right, swoops to the left, goes vertical, begins to curl under, reaches the extreme bottom. You want to think about like a handle on a mug, the way the handle of a mug would work. And then finally, it turns into the bottom of the nostril, it really is like a heart shape. Now, from this angle, it's an upside down heart, but it's still a heart. And just like our nostrils have a thickness. So there's two, one on one side and then one on the other. So he's showing us like, an elephant nose, but it's really a human nose, like kind of upside down. Okay, so I can zoom this out and I can zoom this in. Zoom this out. Zoom this in. I just want to make sure everything can fit on the same page. And the way we're going to tie the whole trunk together is by unifying his lines. The light, very similar to the cherry, which of course I intended. The light is coming from up above, the left. Coming from the left, coming from the left. I'm just putting all these arrows in here just for your own well-being, so that when you add these bracelet lines, the lines that show the texture and the curviness of the elephant, you're also describing the shading. So you're getting more marks on this left side as you draw these curves. And you can actually tell that he used his eraser. Amazing. I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm going to do this at the end. So he gives us these cones, these bracelet lines that describe the wrinkles and simultaneously the shadow side of the form of this trunk. This side looks like it's straightened up a little bit. Now, watch how it comes from one side across the top and then down the other side. Up, across, and then down. Up, across, and then at the very edge, it goes down. Very, very far side. You can even think about it in reverse. We'll come up from the other side, broad across, and then down the right. Up slightly, across, and then down. And this is how you would draw any cylinder. Here's like a Pepsi can. Curved, broadside, and then down. Curved, broadside, and down. He was attempting to get the movement, and he was trying to find the form, and he overdid it. Like he made too many lines. So then he comes in with his eraser, and he pulls out and blends the lines in the middle of the top. So you can actually see it, how it gets lighter in there. And he's not afraid of a silhouette. When I say afraid of the silhouette, is like all the lines, most of the lines we've been making are at the moment bracelet lines, but he goes back and reaffirms the edge, the first marks that we made. Look at how you can actually see that there's a little crease in between. I'm just going to draw this one as if it were two forms coming together, just as a hunch. Man, I might have to teach this again when we have more time. Not to this group, but like, this is a really good drawing, and it's really helpful, I think, for the students too. All right, so let's continue this concept of bracelet lines. We got the the trunk. It was kind of complicated and kind of squiggly, but like there's more structure. So you can run some marks across the forehead. You can run some vertical marks up the forehead. And then you can also add more bracelet lines to the round part of the skull. It's really nice. I just plopped in that ear, but the only reason I put that ear line in there was kind of so you could see that the way that we had this idea of figure to ground relationship with the cherry, he did the same thing. He wanted a, he wanted a background for the elephant. And he
I
did
hate to say it, Mr. Twist, but it's already 5.
so sad. I know. Well, you can piece together some of the wrinkles in the neck. I mean, there is
Yeah,
a-
we can just take a screenshot of it. Oh, you could also just show us the next one and we could take a screenshot of that.
Yeah. So let's do that. Here's this one. And then the other elephant that I wanted to draw.
I really wanted to draw the other elephant just
Oh.
because it's an actual image.
Look at this
Well, I
one.
want to draw that griffin.
I know, dude. Is
Draw a
that, look at this thing. This
Oh, he moving.
kind of
Oh, he quick. He quick.
What? So this is an ancient mosaic from like 450 BC, and then this is like a modern photo of a hawk attacking a snake. And it's just like it's just like interesting to see nature, at work,
That
2,000 years apart.
the only way that
don't know.
snake can beat that hawk is if he chokes it to death by stuffing his tail in its mouth.
Yeah, I mean,
From that
I feel
position,
like
the only way he can kill it is by stuffing his tail down its throat.
Can you please show the
Hey,
the other
yeah.
the
Just take
elephant?
if you want to try this guy, you can take a screenshot.
I want to try this.
And I can't remember
All right, here we go.
what I Googled to get this.
bye.
Could you please show the what's it called?
Baby
The other-
realistic elephants that aren't
other
drawing
elephant?
is what you Googled.
Right, let me
Bye.
screenshot this.
Yeah,
Thank you. Goodbye. Have a great day.
bye, y'all. Did everybody get the screenshot of this that needed it? Coulter, Ace. Cool. All right, man. Have a great week.